This time on No Not the Mind Probe, episode number 93. Good night, Moon. Good night, Moon. Good night, Moon.
Welcome to not the Mind Probe. No, just
maybe not today.
Not the Mind Probe. It's a selection of things, but just today, no, not the Mind Probe.
Nah,
that's probably what most of our fans say when they're scrolling through their Spotify, and they're like, no, not the Mind Probe.
It feels like when you call a friend up on it's like maybe 8:45 on Friday night, so they're still in, they haven't done anything, and you're like, hey, you want to come out and Mind Probe? Oh, no, not the Mind Probe. No.
When we're done with this series, I intend to. I think Paul Jericho's the original No, Not the Mind Probe guy, and I think we should cut a super cut of all of these line readings and send them to him. And be like, we came up with 150 options. If you go back, you could 80. We could do another cut of the 5 Doctors, and you can get this one. You could nail this one.
Good.
But he could also catch this if he just happens to be listening to this, which is a podcast. Here it is, where we watch and rank the first 300 Doctor Who stories, right up until the end of Jodie Whittaker. And then we move into the present day, and we'll talk about that shortly. But my name is John Grant. I'm a lifelong Doctor Who fan. I've been watching it for 39 fantastic.
And my name is Porter Mason, and John's been asking me to watch Doctor Who for 27 years. A few years ago, I finally said yes. Each episode of this podcast, we look at 2 stories. Although, as John said, we're gonna kind of talk about 3 for a few episodes.
Stay tuned.
We go through now what do we call it? I've been saying the newer series. Well, gosh.
Middle Who now, and then there's gonna be
the Moffat
classic, new.
I can't
modern?
even say the Russell T Davies era.
No.
Oh God.
Classic, modern, new, but then we'd be shifting new to the new.
The BritBox era.
BritBox, that's the classic.
Well, anyway, one that started in 2005.
Right.
We're going through those in order. And then John acts as a sommelier and pairs one of those stories with one of the classic stories. John, what do we have in store for this episode of No, Not the Mind Probe, the podcast?
Yeah.
Today.
Well, Porter, it's to the moon, Porter, to the moon. I made that joke, I think, at the end of the last one, but it's a good joke. It's
still good.
Referencing the honeymooners is topical. It's a thing that a lot of the kids remember. Actually, probably kids.
That's right.
Never even heard of the honeymooners at this point. Sad. Ralph Cramden. Anyway, Jackie Gleason, fantastic. Right? Gleason? Yeah, it was Gleason, right?
Gleason, yeah.
And
Art Carney.
Art Carney, yeah, very good. Anyway, that's not what this show's about. We won't be watching that. But the moon connects our stories. This time we have the next episode in the Peter Capaldi, Jenna Coleman run, featuring yet again another random child wandering into the TARDIS. We'll get to that. But they travel to the moon and face the dilemma of whether or not they have to kill the moon. A very intriguingly named story. And we've paired that with one of the, I think, possibly the earliest visit of Doctor Who to the moon. I don't believe they'd been to the moon in the Hartnell era. This is a very early Patrick Troughton Second Doctor story featuring Ben, Polly, and Jamie. It's packed story on the Moonbase.
All right.
But wait, we're going to start with the special, right?
Oh.
Should we do that? Yeah.
You want to start with the special? Okay.
We start with the new.
So here's the deal.
Then the new, then the classic.
You guys know this. Yeah. It's December 18th.
Something like that.
18th.
18th. Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah.
As you're listening to this, because you guys listen to these right when they're off the griddle. You like to get these right when they're off the griddle.
Click and refresh or something. I guess that's probably how it works. And I don't know, what time do these go live? Like, is there a set time?
In the morning, 8 a.m. Yeah.
Is there a set time, or is there just some people at the little operator center like clicking wires into holes and being like, Doris, gotta put up Mind Probe.
Generally, it's 8 a.m.
Mind Probe.
It's 8 a.m. Eastern. And so that's, what is that? 3 p.m. GMT. something like that. So, well, anyway,
sorry.
So, because that happened, what just happened here, John, in the world of Doctor Who in the month of November and December 2023?
We had a new story.
What?
The 60th.
We've been at 300 episodes for
300 for a while. Over a year. Yeah, and then we finally embarked on the 60th anniversary specials, and we have. I've already spoiled some of this reporter, but David Tennant is the 14th Doctor. He's also the 10th Doctor. And he's also the Meta-Crisis Doctor because he was a second. He's split up, and one of them is living with Rose.
Contractually, he has to be every other Doctor.
Yeah, he's a lot of doctors at this point. And Catherine Tate returned, and it will embark upon the Russell T. Davies era with the Star Beast, the first of these specials, and uniquely for, at least at the moment, for No, Not the Mind Probe, you and I are in the exact same. We have seen these episodes the exact same number of times, assuming you've only watched it once. I've only seen it once.
I've only watched it once. And so I still, obviously, I have my latter half of Peter Capaldi and Jodie Whittaker era holes in my Doctor Who memory.
Sure.
But everything else, I've seen a survey enough of the old Doctors, and then I've seen all of the new Doctors up until then.
And you know the Dr. Donna story. That's what you
I know. I definitely know the Dr. Donna story.
That's what you needed.
So I said, I'm just going to watch these as they go. So we just want to talk about them briefly.
Yeah, so hot take.
So the Star Beast, we see him come back with Donna as where we last left Donna. Her memory's wiped from all of her time with the Doctor, though everyone around her knows about it. And so it's sort of ludicrous that it would not have come through until then. And by the way, all this, as we know in the Earth of Doctor Who, alien stuff is happening all the time around her, but she's being shielded from it. And the reason for that is the thought is that if she does tap back into that, her mind will kind of overload with the Dr. Donna era, and she'll die essentially if she remembers the Doctor. So anyway, we meet her. She's now married. She has this it's been a while now, right? Because she has a grown daughter, right?
Yeah. Well, I think Rose's daughter, I think is supposed to be like 15, but in sort of that classic, classic. And actually, it was 15 years ago. I think technically that the
that's
Dr.
crazy,
Donna, or something like that. Or, anyway, yeah. So, it's 15. Year old, it was like 2008, I guess. So and
so they're living together. Her mom's living with them. It seemed like,
she always seems to be around. And
we don't see Bernard.
Well, it's talked about him. They say he's off staying with them. Unit gave him a nice place to stay or something like that. Yeah.
Well, so anyway, it's a story of they discover this little adorable looking alien called a Meep, and of course the rest of the family is telling the Doctor, like, get out of here, don't get away. And the alien gets befriended by the daughter. We ultimately find out that, and then we see a bunch of other aliens come and try to capture this
aliens,
cute little alien. And in a kind of a good Doctor Who twist, we realize, like, well, the cute alien's actually the evil one, and the crazy bug ones are actually good. And then explain kind of what happened at the end, because I kind of followed it, but basically Donna does remember the Doctor, but is fine. And then at the very end, the way isn't that how they kind of dispatch with me?
So, if I understood it, Donna sort of starts to remember the Doctor, but not totally. And they end up in a situation where the Doctor, they're separated in this room, and the Doctor can't hit all the switches at the same time. And so the only way to save the Earth and to save Rose and everybody from the Meep is for her to remember, right? And basically, he's got like a
safe word or something.
Yeah, he can just kind of trigger it. It's like a hypnotist. It's like a hypnotist, like nutmeg, and she's like, and he does it, and then she becomes the Dr. Donna again. But she doesn't die because, and I thought this was reasonably, she has a daughter, and so
she's now has a daughter.
Some of that energy or whatever to the daughter, and then blah 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 happens, and at the end they're kind of like, well, we can do the one thing a male presenting Time Lord can't do. We can just let it go, and then they just kind of went, and the little. I don't know that one. All right, Russell. But I wanted to end that plot point, I guess. But so they apparently somehow are just able to be like, we're just going to let the excess whatever go. And it
looks like they were regenerating.
Yeah, right. I think they were like, I don't know, just emitting. I think can't women do this? Can't women just emit life energy? I don't know. Does Mrs. Probe do that? Does she just like glow a little
they
bit?
just slough it off. They just like
here you go. So then we get a very cool new TARDIS. That was very exciting.
And a very cool looking TARDIS.
Huge.
Should mention too, because it was kind of tied into that plot point at the end too, in a big way, that her daughter is trans.
Oh yeah,
and that part of her experience in going through the absorbing of the energy and then letting go of it seemed to, she was trans and was fully presenting as that, but was going through a lot in her life and still seemed really like tortured. And going through that experience, she sort of emerged very confident in of her, like she had found herself fully, which was really an interesting moment.
It was a nice. There's a nice, and they have the nice little moment where the Doctor assumes the Meep is a he, and then is challenged on that, and he says, "Oh, yes, good point." And then it's like, "I identify as the Meep." Which is great. That's Miriam Margolyes, by the way, as the voice of the Meep, who she was in Harry Potter. She's the potions one or whatever. I don't know. She's one of the Harry Potter wizardy teacher people. And she's a real hoot in interviews and stuff. That was a good episode. I liked it. I thought so this is actually based on a comic from the 70s in Doctor Who magazine, written by, so some of the early Doctor Who comics were written by like the guy who wrote The Watchmen, and like there's some
Alan
really
Moore.
Big, there's some really big names in some of these early comics, and this was the story from that. So I did know the twist with them going in, but it was still nicely done, I thought. It was a fun episode. You haven't had the experience of watching the last couple years of Jodie Whittaker.
No,
the writing wasn't as solid. So this was
talked
a nice
to you,
boost.
And I also talked to superfan Paul about my reaction to this, and I was a little bit underwhelmed by it. Though it was nice to see David Tennant and Catherine Tate. I thought it was okay. I don't know. I didn't mind any new characters or anything like that, but just didn't love the plot that much. But both he and you said, oh, compared to what we've just been going through, this was like just sort of, because I just said, to me, it felt like, just sort of a competent story. It was fine. Like it wasn't bad. It was just fine. And he was like, that is better than what has been. Like a nice, fine, competent story feels like a very big like step forward.
There were nice characters in it. The dialogue was breezy. It looked fantastic. I mean, there was some. Clearly they have Disney money now, and I think your RTD even mentioned it. And there's one point there was like a drone shot of like a battle on the street that's like got the whole street with aliens and soldiers and there's explosions and it's in 4K or whatever. And it looks fantastic. It is, as a Doctor Who fan, it is really weird to watch it and have the Disney logo started off and then go to the credits. It's like, that is so strange.
One other thing before we move on, because we should get to these two, is the unit like scientist who was in the wheelchair. Mm-hmm. She was really good. Is she a character who's from that other years, or is that new?
No, she's new.
She was cool. I liked her.
Yes, Ruth Madley, I think is her name. She's also a different companion in the Big Finish stories, also in a wheelchair, Hebe. She's very good. And it is not a spoiler to say that she's going to become a recurring character, apparently.
Okay, cool. Well, that's great. I like her.
Coming up. So, So an exciting start to the new era. There you go. And there you go, folks. Hot take from us.
That's the hot take for today.
Normally, I've watched episodes 10 or 20 times. I've done research. I have facts and figures. This one, I'm absorbing it like you are. I'm just a commoner like the rest of you.
Us, yeah. And then what you should probably do is like, what would you have paired that with? What two other episodes would you pair that with?
That is a very strange. I did in the theme. We'll find out in the themes. I did find a common little link in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I work hard.
Kill the Moon. This was series 8.
It sounded like a stage direction. All right, Kill the Moon. Right, killing the moon. Bring up the sun, please.
By the way, I've also, for the past 3 weeks, most of the United States, had a very bad chest cold and cough. So I'm going to attempt not to cough on this recording, but I can't promise anything. And also is why I will fight laughter. So John, say nothing funny. That will be your job there.
I will try to make this podcast as dull as possible.
Series 8, Episode 7. We have the 12th Doctor. We have Clara. We have, for some reason, Courtney Woods. And we are on the moon. We're on a spaceship in the moon. This is story number 248 of the first 300 stories. It aired in October 4th, 2014. And we have a clip here, which I'm going to play for you.
Here we go.
Now, you've got the tools to kill it. You made them. You brought them up here all on your own with your own ingenuity. You don't need a Time Lord. Kill it or let it live. I can't make this decision for you.
I can't make it.
Well, there's two of you here.
Well, yeah, a school teacher and an astronaut.
Who's better qualified?
I don't know, the President of America.
Oh, take something off his plate. He makes far too many decisions anyway. She. Sorry. She hasn't even been into space. She hasn't even been to another planet. How would she even know what to do?
I am asking you for help.
Listen, we went to dinner in Berlin in 1937, right? We didn't nip out after Putin and kill Hitler. I've never killed Hitler. And you wouldn't expect me to kill Hitler. The future is no more malleable than the past.
Okay, don't you do this to make some kind of point.
Sorry. Well, actually, no, I'm not sorry. It's time to take the stabilizers off your bike. It's your moon, womankind. It's your choice.
All right. Rough talk from the Doctor.
Do you think they call them stabilizers in Britain? Like, so training wheels.
We call them training wheels.
Training wheels. Do you think I was wondering, like, is that? Do you think they call him stabilizers, or do you think he's an alien? So he's like, well, spaceships have stabilizers. This should be a stabilizer.
I don't know. If you're a British fan of the show, write in. Yeah,
Peter Capaldi, write in.
Okay, Peter. Yeah.
Don't call though. Don't call. We're busy.
So going through the plot.
Yeah.
We arrive on a shuttle in 2049, so not too far off here. And although it is the rare case where we go to a 2049 that is totally believable, and the plot of Earth at that point in 2049 is we are so uninterested in space that the only spaceship available is in a museum. Only spaceship available is an old space shuttle from a museum that they had to like bolt back together. So I was like, you know what? That is believable. We're actually headed in a slightly different direction right now, but in 20 years from now, who knows? So anyway, they're in this cargo bay of, and actually, sorry, I should say what gets them there is this weird confrontation in my mind of Clara saying, I mean, the initiation of it is Clara just saying like, hey, you said something rude to the girl, this Courtney girl who's stowing away with them.
Right. I think like she's insignificant or you
don't matter. Said, like, you just made some Peter Capaldi Doctor comment to her. You can't say that to a kid like that. Like it really kind of sent her spiraling. Can you just say, I didn't mean it? And he doesn't want to. And then basically said, and it's about like that you're not important.
Yeah.
And so he says like, okay, sure. Here, you want to go to the moon? You'll be important.
Yeah, you'll be the first woman on the moon.
Right? First woman on the moon. Yeah. But they get in the shuttle, but what they realize is that like, first of all, they're not landing on the moon. They're like hurtling toward it, crashing into it, and that the ship is full of bombs. Also, when they get to the moon, they're hoping to bounce around in the low gravity, and they realize no, it's just normal gravity, which is a great cheat to not have to do any gravity effects.
Yeah, really good. Yep. Because they were filming, it's an impressive moonscape, and that was filmed in Lanzarote on an island that's like a volcanic island, and I think they just did some digital stuff
really?
to it. Yeah, yeah. So that
it looks cool.
It looks great.
Well, so they meet the rest of the astronauts who are like barely astronauts.
Yeah, pretty impressive group. Yeah,
and what they're told is, sorry about that. What they're told is these are bombs. We're here to blow up the moon, because it's been wreaking havoc on the Earth. Tides have been changing, moving around. Coastal communities been thrown into turmoil. And the
real estate prices dropping. People, I mean, just
really tough.
Like
people's
really
second homes, people's summer homes, their prices are going down on them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, their HOA fees going up to cover the new insurance costs. It's a nightmare. It's a real dystopian future.
They're sent to kind of check it out. And they're sent with bombs that in case what they need to do is blow up the moon, then they're going to blow up the moon.
Got it.
Okay.
I remember that. Do you remember the Mr. Show sketch, the blow up the moon sketch? It was so Mr. Show is Bob Odenkirk and David Cross. It's a HBO, early days of HBO-ish show in the 90s, I think.
Sketch comedy, late 90s.
Sketch comedy, yeah. And there was one sketch where they were they just announced that America was going to blow up the moon. It was just like
sort of like America was just bored. Like we're like, I don't know.
I walked on it. I hit a golf ball on it. What else is there to do? And they had like a country music singer like talking about blowing. It was a very funny sketch. And then NASA was blowing up the moon. Anyway, sorry.
So then we learn more about what's going on here. And the Doctor finds out, and we get attacked by some weird spiders. And we find out that they're not spiders, they're bacteria, because what we find out is that the moon is not a moon. It's actually a big egg with an organism inside it. Mm-hmm. And it's ready to hatch. The organism's going to come out. This huge
like organisms do. Thing. Yeah, like a bird dragon thing.
So
which obviously makes sense. It's in an egg. It would. It's not going to be a mammal. Your moon egg, your classic moon egg, is clearly not going to be a mammal.
I mean, it could be a leathery egg, and then a platypus or an echidna could hatch from it.
Fair.
Of course, that's never covered here in Doctor Who because they refuse to talk about monotremes in Doctor Who, and that's a whole other thing. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll get to that in themes. But
yeah, that was where I was going. Yeah.
So then we get to this moment where the Doctor presents him with this big choice. And basically says, like, you can do nothing, let this organism hatch, or you can blow it up and kill it. What will happen either way? You don't know. If you blow it up and kill it, you're still going to have this huge thing here. It won't be alive, but it'll still be massive. Yeah. Huge chunks of it may still go to, who knows. If it hatches, it could be hostile toward the Earth.
Right, could eat the Earth.
Huge chunks of the egg could still, all these things. You don't know. And then he has this big thing where he says, like, okay, well, you guys figure it out. And then Clara's very put out by this.
Very put out.
And the rest of the episode is the three of them, because Courtney's, like, lightly involved, too, of, like, the different sort of reasons behind it. And it gets into this weird sort of, like, choose life thing too.
Yeah, it's kind of an abortion thing going on underneath it, which is sort of interesting.
Because they're like, it's an unborn child. Like, what?
Yeah, it's not its fault that it's going to kill everything around it or something. It's like, well,
it's an unborn dragon the size of the moon. So anyway,
no. Then they do that bizarre.
And the Earth
vote.
takes a vote.
Yeah,
they do like TRL live, like.
But only people at night can vote because it's by turn off your lights, right?
Well, this is impressive. Yeah, first of all, only the part of the Earth that's at night and facing the spaceship will be counted. But Clara tells them, hey, everybody turn off your lights if you want to kill the moon. Leave on your lights if you want to save it. And what's impressive to me is that the Earth got their stuff together to like all turn the lights off. Like that wouldn't happen because as she was saying this the whole time, it was like, okay, so you're going to see some people with lights on and some people with lights off. Like what is that going to tell you? Are you going to count all the lights? Like what,
Well, but I think so they
all the people turn the lights off
or they turn the lights on, don't they? Whatever they do, they send the signal of kill it.
They turn the lights off to say kill it.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They all get together
and
actually all say kill the thing.
So it's kind of a very cynical view of like, I mean, and I'm not wrong. I actually think that's probably what people would do. But yeah, just like kill it immediately. And then Clara's like, oh.
So then at the very last second, Clara says no. What happens? Well, the thing is adorable.
Miss Dictator Clara, who doesn't care about voting. Yeah.
She leaves the
Donald
egg.
Trump Jr. there.
The little dragon leaves the egg and flies away and lays a new egg, and you still have your moon.
You
have your precious moon.
Yeah, everybody happy now.
And then the Doctor comes back, and I feel like no one is sure how to feel about any of it because they come back. The woman who Clara like, and the rest of the world like who Clara just overruled is kind of like, oh well. Okay, I guess all's well that ends well. But again, like to your point, she just went against everything.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor comes back and Clara's like, how dare you make us make a decision? You should make all decisions for everyone. And then
we're done.
And then Courtney is, here's what I'll say about Courtney. I don't like, as a character, I don't know. What I think is interesting about her is that she's well written as a character in the sense that like, she acts like a 12-year-old child the whole time, and the actor does a good job at it. And the writer almost is like making her such a 12-year-old child and almost making her unhelpful at certain points, not in a way that is interesting or helpful or serves the plot. Was like, yeah, 12-year-old would just be like, I just want to go home now. Like, I don't really want to do this. and it almost is the writer saying like, I don't want this character here anymore. Like, can we just not have her here? I don't really know why she's here. Like, because nothing happens that is helped by her being there.
No.
it was very strange. So then the episode ends, Claire's really put out, and she basically says, like, I'm done.
We're done.
And she leaves, and that's the end of the episode.
And Danny kind of affirms it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It was a weird episode.
I agree. It was a controversial and divisive episode that came out. Some people loved it. Some people thought it was really good. I was a little same as you. I was kind of like that point at the end was sort of like I think you're supposed to be on Clara's side, and I wasn't. I'm like, no, yeah, he's kind of the doctor's right. Everything the doctor says makes perfect sense. Which is like, yeah, if you want me to side against the main character, the title character of the show, who's supposed to be a godlike person who's always really good, you're gonna need to give me more ammunition than that, I think, to side against him. The other thing people strongly objected to, which I think is hilarious, is the physics of it. They were like, how can it have more mass and then lay another egg the same size of the moon?
It doesn't make sense.
And all that. It's like, yeah, well, cool. Well, yeah, it's really you're calling out the physics of a show with a blue box that's bigger on the inside. Like, come on, everybody. But yes, that upset a lot of people. Yeah, the Courtney is another. It's like the one Nightmare in Silver from last season with the Cybermen on the resort or the theme park planet when Clara's two kids who we'll never hear from again traveled with them. It's like Stephen Moffat, like, I don't know, contractually obligated to include a child in every once a season. It's like,
but this one,
come on, everybody, you were gonna love this, and everyone's like, no, I don't.
Actually, it is just like that episode because similarly, didn't they just kind of like go away halfway through in the episode too? Never mind, I don't know why they're here.
Yeah, and then she gets plunked in the TARDIS, and she doesn't come back. I mean, I agree, she's a better actor than the other kids. And she's fine. It's more realistically depicted.
It's just no point to it. Like,
yeah, do people like? I don't. Again, we talked about this in the past. The child genius and whether like sci-fi writers seem to think kids need this to identify with. I thought the bacteria creatures were very scary. Little spider thingies. They were creepy and well real. And the moon is well realized. And then just that.
I wanted to see the moon dragon a little closer. Like when he just went away.
That's a pricey shot. You got a little.
In the Disney years, we'd be seeing plush figures of that dragon. We'd be seeing it all over the place.
Yeah, it was that end confrontation. Just like I feel like they wanted it to be this big emotional thing with Clara, and it didn't sell me. And I'm just kind of like, Clara's just kind of being annoying here or being spoiled almost, and the doctor's being a little obtuse. And then I didn't even like Danny, the way that Danny portrays, like, yeah, I told you this was going to happen. It was like, really? You thought she would have to decide whether to destroy the world or not? Yeah, that's it. And then she's like, I'm breaking up. We're done. We're finished. Which, I mean, since I know you've seen it, which is immediately undercut by the very next story. So it's like, also like, it was just a very,
we'll talk about that next episode. But like, my one thing coming out of it as I was like, maybe Clara's moving on. Like, I don't actually know exactly when she leaves. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe it feels like they were just kind of short-circuiting that. And you could kind of see like, okay, you know what? Like, we don't know ever what was going on in her personal life, but maybe she didn't have much going on. Now she's kind of pretty serious with this guy. And maybe it's sort of like, you know what am I doing? Like, I have a life now. Like, and so I could see her moving on, but then like, that's not what happens. So it's just, it's a weird kind of whiplash thing of like, why is this? There was no hints of this, similar to there being no hint of the doctor being like, soldiers, I hate all soldiers. Right. And that suddenly was a thing in like one episode that is then surmounted as like, oh wow, he overcame his hatred of soldiers. That would happened started one episode ago.
He's finally gotten past it.
All right. Well, why don't we move on to our classic episode?
Yeah.
This is season 4, story number 6. It is only the 33rd Doctor Who story ever.
Very early on.
A 4-parter, the 11th of February through the 4th of March, 1967. We got the 6th Doctor. I'm sorry, we got the 2nd Doctor and Polly, Ben, and Jamie, who we were just checking in with them a few episodes ago.
Right, yeah, we just met Polly, and this is only Jamie's like 3rd episode. Yeah,
this is right after the Highlanders, which we listened to not too long ago. Okay, but we have a clip, and this is the Moonbase. I didn't say the name of it. The Moonbase. Here is a clip.
This thing you saw, what was it like?
It was enormous and silver, and it had holes in its head for eyes, like a robot.
A robot?
But the Cybermen were all killed when Mondas blew up, weren't they?
Stop this Cyberman nonsense. There were Cybermen. Every child knows that, but they were all destroyed ages ago. So we all thought. That's enough. Now let's have a little calm thinking. For the past 2 weeks, a completely unknown disease has appeared in the base. People drop in their tracks, they develop this black pattern on their skin. Then some of the patients disappear, right? Well, they can't leave the base without wearing spacesuits. There are no spacesuits missing, so where are they?
I must say, it does sound a little odd.
More than a little. But I do know one thing. A new disease starts, people disappear, and then you turn up.
And you think we did it?
Oh, come off it. We haven't done a thing.
That's as maybe. I don't know who you are, what you are, or where you came from. But you can get off the moon now.
Yeah, well, that suits me fine. The sooner the better.
No, Ben, we can't go yet.
Well, why not? They don't want us here.
Because there is something evil here, and we must stay.
Evil? Don't be daft.
Evil is what I meant. There are some corners of the universe which have bred the most terrible things. Things which act against everything that we believe in. They must be fought.
That's a sort of a mission statement of the Doctor. That's a famous little speech from him about some corners of the universe. Mm-hmm.
Evil.
And so, I mean, a contrast interesting between early Doctor Who, when the first Doctor, which was like, yeah, as soon as anything happened, they'd be like, let's go to the TARDIS and get out of here. And then they had to like come up with some reason to separate them from the TARDIS, because she's like, let's just go, let's leave, we're leaving. This is not about us. Yeah.
All right, so we're now 2070. So we've gotten past 2049 where the
this
dragon
is the new egg moon, I guess.
was in the moon. They were like, we're into space now.
Yeah. Let's put them base on that egg.
Let's get a base up there on that egg. And that's where we show up. And first we get to the moon, and then Ben and Polly and Jamie have a great time on the moon. Now, here we are not skimping on effects. They're jumping around on the gravity. They're having fun trying to show that they're having no gravity, and
so you do some wire work. Did you watch the animation, I guess, of this? Okay.
Yeah,
so
I watched the animation and then the regular.
Yeah.
2 episodes are missing. 1 and 3 or 2 and 4?
Yeah, 1 and 3. 2 and 4 are still around.
Anyway, they arrive there, and as kind of mentioned here, they find out that this Moonbase people are getting this virus where, and they just refer to it as like, oh yeah, they're getting sick. It's like, they're turning into zombies. But they're like, yeah, something's sick. We got to figure out this sickness. They get this skin rash over them, and they get these black spots on them. And we do find that the Cybermen are causing this virus, and then they are zombies who are essentially like Cybermen in training at that point when they're
controlled by the Cybermen. Yeah.
So there's lots of things I wasn't clear about. Well, first of all, let me just ask: is this only the second appearance of the Cybermen?
This is number 2. Yeah. So this is their second. They've been significantly redesigned. The first one, we haven't watched it yet, but we will get to it in a few. But it was very rudimentary design. This one, they looked a lot sleeker. If you can believe that. This is a good design for them comparatively.
And then after this is the Tomb of the Cybermen?
Yeah, Tomb of the Cybermen later.
Which is great. I like the Tomb of the Cybermen. Yeah, so I didn't get where so the Cybermen are here on the moon.
Yeah.
They're clearly trying to, I don't know. I mean, I know enough of the Cybermen in general that they want to like kind of replicate and make copies of Cybermen. But why are they doing it on the moon? Are they trying to get back?
So their original story, which I think is supposed to be pretty much a direct sequel to, involved the twin planet Mondas coming to Earth and trying to destroy it, and then instead Mondas gets destroyed. The Cybermen are scattered, so it's kind of implied this is a revenge thing, and they're like, all right, we will take over the moon, and then they get control of the gravitron, which controls all the weather on it, which is a very, I read a review, it's like, this is a very English thing to be concerned about the weather.
They have a gravity wave beam, and where they're using the gravity wave beams to control the weather and make it
control
sunny
hurricanes,
and weeds, or whatever.
Avoid hurricanes crashing into things and things.
Yeah. Anyway, so the Cybermen are there. They're trying to take them over, as we heard. By the way, it's an international space station. We got a French guy with a nice little ascot, Benoit. And then we have a gruff English guy, and they're working together.
I like. It's also it's great. They're all, every one of them is from a different country. Every single one of them has a stereotypical like accent, or I mean, the French guy, and then their uniforms are just T-shirts with their name and a flag on it.
Yeah.
But like the French guy's named Benoit, and like there's like McDougal, and there's like everybody's got a stereotypical name.
Right.
And of course, it's still run by an Englishman. Of course,
and they're all speaking English.
Yeah, and all speaking English, of course. But yeah, very funny international cast.
So we find out that the virus is being spread through, they infected the sugar in their food supplies, because what they find is like some of the people were putting sugar in their coffee and some weren't. And so that's where some of the infection came.
I'd be dead instantly. I put a lot of sugar in my coffee and tea. I would be been gone down fast. Yeah.
We also see, I thought interestingly, that Ben takes it upon himself to put together this cocktail of like plastic corrosive material.
Well, Polly comes up with the idea. It's
Polly who's true.
She bases it on, it is at once both empowering and sexist in that she bases it on nail polish remover. She's like, well, that's just plastic, right? Yeah, and they're made of plastic, so we just put, and it's like, okay, good for you, Polly. And so yes, and then Ben concocts it, and they start throwing it.
Well, I guess both of them, because anyway, and then they do that, and it does work to some extent, and kills one of the Cybermen, and then they're all like, here for that, and I'm like, I mean, just because I just saw the how these two first came to be companions.
Yeah,
I was just impressed by the like moxie and intuitiveness. They're like, suddenly they're like MacGyver, like killing Cybermen with this stuff. It's only been a few episodes here. Anyway, they fight the Cybermen. Then they finally figure out, can we point the gravitron at ourselves? And then we have the very silly final sequence, which is they do point the gravitron at the Cybermen, which just makes them float away. Float away, and sorry, the backups come, and the flying saucers essentially of Cybermen are landing on the moon
on strings, just clearly high plates on strings, just wobbling.
And they just very gently go away. And then I like that they're just like, well, that's probably the end of the Cybermen. Like, why? Why do you think that's the end at all? Like, they were in ships. They were in
the ships can fly again. Yeah, details.
And then the Ben, Polly, Jamie, and the Doctor do a real Irish goodbye and are just out of there. Yeah, they're just gone. Because they literally are turning around and be like, oh, we should ask the Doctor if... Oh, okay. Well, he's gone.
Well, you have to explain. And I don't want to get... Yeah. And then they do a preview of the macro terror. At the end, they see the future. Yeah. Look at which is just to create a cliffhanger, but really it's like, oh, I was this... Suddenly it's like, oh, yeah, I got this time-space scanner. They can look into the future. And it's like, well, that would be handy more often than not. But it's like, yeah, look at a claw. Yeah, this is by Kip Pedler, who created the Cybermen, and it's kind of a rewrite of their first episode. It's in a similar base under siege kind of thing. Jamie was, as you can see, Jamie's not in it much because he was added at the last minute. Yep. So he's brand new, and they gave some of his lines to Ben, or some of Ben's lines to him. But yeah, he spends most of the episode, or the first half of it at least, unconscious, which is always a good way to write people out in sci-fi. Yeah, you got Polly coming up with a solution in a way, and then also very, very amusingly, again, it veers back and forth between Polly's like this great independent, smart person, and then in other scenes they're like, "Oh, Polly, go make some coffee," and she's like, "Oh yeah." Like, okay, she makes a lot of coffee. There are a lot of very lengthy procedure scenes of like, all right, there's just people in rooms with clipboards being like, all right, move it down 5 degrees. And then like, move it up 5 degrees, move it across. It's just like, yeah, it's like 10 minutes at one point.
There's also very lengthy Cybermen walking scenes.
And marching across the moon.
Yeah.
You got, I think Troughton is great in this as a second Doctor. I think he's still early on in his performance, but that speech is he's good. He's got the gravitas, but he's sort of doing there's a great scene where while they're doing all the procedural stuff, he's collecting samples from them, and like, he's stealing their boots or cutting bits of their uniforms off while they're trying to do their stuff. And he's really good. And you get this is a redesign of the Cybermen. They look good. The voices are hard to understand. They've got that real electronic modulation on the voices, and it's like, it's like, what is happening? And this is a half missing. Why 2 episodes are gone and why 2 non-consecutive episodes are gone is an interesting, bewildering thing. This is pretty decent animation, actually.
Yeah,
for as we see, the animation varies wildly on the because of money, I think, on the various animated stories. But this is one of the good ones, maybe because they only had to do 2 episodes, so maybe they could invest a little bit more in it. But yeah, it's an entertaining Cybermen story. And this is the second Doctor is the era of the Cybermen. I think there are 5 Cybermen stories. There's Tomb of the Cybermen, the Invasion, the Moonbase, the Wheel in Space. Yeah, there's 5 Cybermen stories. So this is definitely they were the big monsters of the era for sure.
Fly me to the themes. Tell me about some stuff that happened and then happened once again. That is what we call a theme. In other words, Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
All right, guys, we are adherents of the repeating themes
Old
here.
Blue Eyes Mason.
That's right. Mm-hmm. On No, Not the Mind Probe. And we like to talk about themes, ideas, and topics that are threaded throughout all of history and certainly throughout the world of Doctor Who. John, what did you want to cover in this episode?
Well, buckle up, folks. I think it's time we rip this Band-Aid off and watch our views skyrocket. Watch the controversy. We'll probably be on Fox News in the morning. Ooh. Let's talk about woke. Let's talk about Doctor Who and woke, because we got Star Beast and
the woke mind virus. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, and I think what the Moonbase was depicting is that Sugar was giving them the woke mind virus, and they were collapsing.
Oh, gosh,
and this is
sense.
It's a dire warning to us now. You got all 3 of the stories we talked about today. You've got the Star Beast, which has the stuff with the transgender character and the pronouns and things like that, which is wonderful. But of course, the internet erupted into idiots being like, and complaints to the BBC, and you're turning all our kids trans and things like that. Your kids have trans like 6 different ways, right? They just because they keep seeing it and going back and forth, right?
It's only because they haven't seen that episode of Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, okay. You're sheltering.
yeah.
That wasn't meant I don't know if trans is a verb. That was probably the wrong one.
Trans.
I did not
think transitioned would actually
transition. I think is the correct.
I like that you've shortened and then lengthened the short. I like it.
So you got that. Then you got Kill the Moon, which has even in the little clip we heard the stuff about womankind and a female president and sort of women empowerment. And then you've got the Moonbase, which obviously has. You've got the multicultural Moonbase crew, and you've got Polly. Polly could be an argument on both sides of the woke debate here. You have a multinational Moonbase crew, but there's no women except Polly. But yeah, so there's sort of this with the Star Beast and Russell T Davies coming back, and obviously a noted queer writer and producer and all that, who definitely advances the political agenda. In his writing, is Doctor Who woke? Has Doctor Who always been woke? Is that part of the is it part of the show, or shouldn't it, or is it no? Doctor Who shouldn't be political. It should be it's just a show about monsters. You can depict genocide, that's fine, but don't infect our kids with the cultural warfare of the day.
Well, gosh,
yeah. Buckle up, Sean.
Has it always been? And again, like this woke term, and that has been used and then weaponized.
Yeah.
But basically meaning like, is it the place of Doctor Who to talk about progressive or potentially sensitive cultural areas? Like, is that where Doctor Who should be? And then has it always been like that? It seems to be to some extent. Sci-fi has always been that, right? Because you are projecting things into the future. So one way or another, you are indicating how things will be like in the future. So if they're not like they are now, you're indicating like, yeah, that was a dumb thing we did now.
Yeah.
And then we do it different in the future, or it's like, oh yeah, that's a stupid thing. Obviously, clearly no one cares about this in the future. Have they always been like it? You'd have a much better sense of that than I, but it seems like it. Like they would, I remember pretty early on, even in the ones in the Hartnell era, we had like black astronauts and stuff like that in a couple of the things now. So I think it has always tried to do that. But then there's ham-handed things too, right? Where then we look back and watch some of these things decades later and we're like, ooh, that looks a little rough, the way they were depicting, especially like native peoples of the various planets and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
gets rough. And certainly the misogyny, or not even often sometimes I guess it's misogyny, but some of it's just like the dismissal of women.
Yeah.
As like not actually being able to help or put on as objects or something like that.
You got I think Asian face. That's also not particularly woke.
So I think they try to. So I think they've tried in their way to do these things, but then are still of their time. So have some pretty, not progressive things going on at the same time. I think it seems in the sense that, should it be? I mean, I don't know, but but it seems like the part of the tenor of the show, because it's gone on for 70 years, is that it is supposed to speak, even though it's not of its speaking about modern day stories that much. It's like it is supposed to be of its time in all the different times that it has been. So yeah, you should probably speak about kind of cultural things going on. And I think you can do it in a unique way because it doesn't have to go right at them. It can kind of hint at them in a clever way. I thought the particular story of the special was more right at it, right? That was just saying like, we're in this time right now and we're going to talk about how this is, and that it's involving a main character. I thought there were some things that were good about it and some things that were like, okay, I don't know. I thought a wonderful scene was Donna and her mom talking about her daughter and that the grandma sort of saying a couple words. I forget what she said exactly, but she said a couple words and she was like, oh, I don't know. Am I even supposed to say that? I get so tongue-tied. I don't know what I'm supposed to, like, she's clearly trying to do her best, but you can see her like, I don't know what the right thing to do all the time is. And I thought that was a nice scene. But yeah, I don't know. This was definitely more head on. I think if it became like only about that, I don't mean trans issues necessarily, but like if it became only about like, here's a hot button cultural issue we're taking every single episode,
like an intergalactic war over transgender bathrooms, and it's just like, the one race, the Daleks are against them, and that
would feel distracting. I feel like what I almost thought, what I would have more expected was if this character, and I don't know, I had to kind of assume this character, because we'd heard this character was coming.
Yeah.
And I thought that they were going to be a regular character. Well, now it seems I don't think they will be, right? I mean, I don't know, but
it's not clear. Still working that out.
And I guess what I would sorry, the last thing I want to say is what I would have rather seen is I would have rather had this character be a regular character, and that maybe we got this episode, but I feel there's a little short shrift to the character that like this is the only episode they got, and it's sort of really about, it's like, hey, there's a trans character and it's a whole episode kind of about them being trans, and now we're moving on from them. It's like, well also they're just people. I'd like to kind of have them. Yeah, we solved it. We solved it.
Moving on. Now we got to move on to the wheelchair.
So that's all.
Yeah, no, I think Doctor Who, yes, has always been progressive or tried to be progressive. I think you're right. Capturing the signs. We haven't done the Green Death yet, but that's one, Third Doctor one that's very much about environmentalism. You've got women's liberation, obviously, through the.
Did they solve 70s. That? Did they solve environmentalism?
Yeah, that's solved. There's no big climate change. Great. I mean, well, it's a lie anyway. But if it weren't, they solve it by saying it's a lie, right? Yeah. I think it's always been, and so yes, this idea that people were like, oh, it's getting too woke now or something like that is sort of laughable to me, because it's like, and even say. I think there was a line in one of the specials where the Doctor talks about a guy who, a celebrity or something, who he fancies, right? That Catherine Tate or Donna says something about someone is very fit, which is English for hot, and the Doctor agrees or something. And so then there were these things, these headlines. Is the Doctor gay now? And I was like, well, he was just a woman.
Right.
And it's also been established that he doesn't really see gender, and Captain Jack was very flirty and all this. So it's like, I don't know how you can label him or them. I mean, actually, I think the current approach, and it makes sense, is the pronoun for the Doctor should be them, they them, because
there literally are them. First of all, using the traditional usage of the word, like they are a plural, like
but funny. And it's interesting. It is like it is sci-fi. Yeah, as you point out, like Star Trek. the first series of Star Trek. You had a multi-racial, multi-ethnic crew. I guess the same thing. A multi-gender crew. You had a black woman as an officer, on the bridge, and you had Asian and a Russian and a Scotsman. It's getting finally Scotsman representation on TV. But yeah, and they had those. They had storylines too that were about reflecting the 60s and stuff. Although maybe that is interesting. Maybe that is almost expected of the 60s, right? Like even now people are like, oh well, yeah, that was those hippies back then. Of course they cared about that stuff, but then in the 80s it was just about selling stock or something like that. All those Star Trek episodes about the Friedman Doctrine were very but yeah, no, I it's sort of like it's interesting is to, I mean, I'm pretty progressive, and I'm very much pro woke. Like for me, my attitude towards all of the woke stuff is like, okay, yeah, if some group tells me, hey, this is insensitive, or I don't, this is a thing, then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Like I don't, if I make a mistake, I don't feel terrible about it, but I'm like,
right.
But it's like, oh, good. I'm glad if there was something that was being said or done that for a long time hurt people, and now they finally feel like they have the power to stand up and say something, or that they don't have to just take it, then that's great. And like, I will happily stand corrected and do my best to modify my behavior. And so it's like, I wonder how much of that is watching Doctor Who for 30 years or 40 years, right? It's to be like, oh yeah, that's what the Doctor would have done, right? And so this is obviously heavily influential on my life, and so yeah, maybe Doctor Who did me. So if you are concerned about your kids being influenced and getting the woke mind virus, which I don't know how you inoculate against that, because the people who are concerned about it won't take vaccines. So
yeah,
it's a tough one to beat. But if you are concerned about your kids getting a woke mind virus, maybe stay away from Doctor Who.
All right, John, we tackled the big subjects.
I think that's going to drive up. We had over 13 views of our last episode on YouTube, but this one could pop right up to
skyrocket to 17
those
views
algorithms.
On this one, I think.
Probably Elon Musk will tweet about it and something against it, and then we're to the moon. Oh, hey.
Hey. So John, it's comedy like that has led us to rank 184 of the first 300 official Doctor Who television stories, and now in a shocking twist, we're going to rank these two. So, all right, I'll start. So I'll start with the old Kill the Moon.
Yeah.
And I have a new strategy for ranking. We have a very long list. We've ranked 184.
Yeah.
So what I do is I go right to the middle. So I go to 80, whatever, something around there. And I say like,
better or worse?
Better or worse than these ones I see right around here. And then I just kind of keep moving along until I find it. And I moved along pretty far down with this one.
Yeah.
I didn't quite get into the basement, but I'm in the 140s. Let me see here. 140. Well, I'll find it, but I'm pretty low.
Somewhere down there.
I have it next to. I have Gridlock right above it. Ghostlight, Keeper of Traken. So it's around there. I didn't really enjoy it, and it was one of those that honestly, if we were to have recorded this episode a week later, I think it would have keep falling. Like the more I thought, I kind of watched it and I was like, okay, I don't know, that was my favorite. And then when I think about ranking, it was like, what was that thing at the end? I didn't like that. And then I just kept thinking of more stuff about it that I didn't really enjoy. So not my favorite. Moonbase, I didn't move too far from the middle. I kind of started in the middle, moved it down a little bit, but I ended up in the 90s. I believe it was 94 I ranked it.
Okay.
I have it around
can see that because it's got a very 50s sci-fi feel to it, which is definitely your...
exactly. Yeah. I like that aspect of it. I did like the multinational crew. I like that French guy a lot.
We didn't even talk about the wonderful... Well, so the French guy was in Fawlty Towers. He was a chef on that, and then he was also famous for he was Clouseau's assistant in the Pink Panther movies, I think.
Oh wow,
he was always
That must be why I particularly liked him.
And I forgot to talk about, because Kill the Moon, but the physics of the Moonbase is fantastic. When they shoot holes in the dome and then they block it with like a coat for briefly and then a tea tray.
Yes, I love that.
It's wonderful. Very 50s sci-fi.
So yeah, I have it like right about in the middle. Like you said, I enjoy the 50s sci-fi. I generally enjoy Cybermen stories, but this wasn't my favorite one of those. I thought, in my mind, because it was almost a very similar cast, I was comparing it to Tomb of the Cybermen, and I was saying the whole time how much more I liked Tomb of the Cybermen. But yeah, okay, but not my favorite.
Yeah, similar to me. I got these both down the list. Kill the Moon, I got at 112, right around Victory of the Daleks, Town Called Mercy, End of the World. And yeah, probably if I thought about it more, it could keep going down. I was generous with it because it looks slick. It looks really good. And I like Capaldi in it. Again, I think he's doing. I think Clara's performance is very good, even if I don't agree with her sentiment. It's like the way she's acting doesn't make any sense to me, but the acting, how she's acting it, is very good. And that scene in the TARDIS at the end is very intense with her. So it's okay. The Moonbase is a little bit further down, but in a similar place. I got it at 117, right by the Web Planet, which I think is similarly
very similar.
Yeah, an ambitious story with a lot of attempt at special effects and things like that. That's sort of let down by. This is not one I've revisited often because, of course, it wasn't only until recently that it came out where you could watch all of it. I'd heard the audios and stuff before, but now with the animation. And, so I've seen it a couple times, and there's not much plot. I mean, as we talked about many times, this could easily be just two parts. There is not much plot. It is very, 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 very slow. And so, it didn't need quite as much time. It just kind of ends up being a very simple plot that's very dull. And it seems like they actually defeat the Cybermen halfway through at the end of episode 2, and then they have to have the Cybermen re-invade and land on the thing so that they can be like, we got 2 more parts to fill, everybody. So we're gonna try it again. So I got it at 117.
Yeah. So you were 117, I was 94 on Moonbase, and then you were 164 for Kill the Moon, and I was 141. Put in the supercomputer here, and we end up with Kill the Moon at 134, right above the Idiot's Lantern, which I had took a look at that. And then the Moonbase we have at 110, right around Aliens of London and Asylum of the Daleks and Gridlock.
Oh, yeah, we agree on that.
So I think this is
okay. Let's look at Doctor Who magazine.
Oh, yes.
What do they have to say? Okay, so Kill the Moon. It looks like the Doctor Who magazine readers agree with us. It is number 34 of 35, so it is the bottom basement of the Peter Capaldi years, which is interesting because I do remember when it came out, there were a lot of people who didn't like it. There were a lot of people who did like it. It seemed to split, but maybe similar to us, the more people thought about it, the more they were like, yeah. So, not a popular one in the Capaldi years. And then the Moonbase, right in the middle of the pack in the Troughton years. It is number 11 of 21. So just right smack in the middle, and always been there. Over the last several times they've done this survey, it's always been 11 or 12. So I think a classic example of the Trout stories. I think this is a very, very. So if you had to say what's an example of the Troughton era, what's the ethos of Troughton, I think this would be it.
And then going back to our Capaldi watch, you still have him now really highly ranked as a Doctor through this almost this first full season. I have him about tied with Tennant, but you have him number 1 with a bullet, below Tennant, below the Third Doctor, below everybody.
So let's see. He must just because he must have saw, because I'm looking at my rankings and he does not appear until still scrolling. He does not appear until listen, number 31. I've got this.
It's true.
Listen.
But you have them all kind of clumped fairly highly there after.
Yeah.
So because with Matt Smith and with David Tennant, you have a bunch in the top and with the Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, but you have a bunch at the top, but we also have a bunch of stinkers. So and we haven't gotten through all of Capaldi, but I just thought it's interesting how, and for me too, I'm surprised, I still have him pretty high, and that I still haven't loved any of these stories that much. And yet, again, they're not terrible, although this one was the worst one so far.
Worst one. I would agree with that. Maybe he's hacked the rankings. Maybe Peter Capaldi is messing with our system. Yeah,
could be.
Russians.
Well, go to mindprobe.show and hack for yourself. Please try to hack into mindprobe.show.
Yeah, please, because we've forgotten the password.
Yes, and then shoot us the password. You can see these rankings. You can also see notes from old episodes. You can subscribe to the podcast, which we'd love, and for a ranking on there. And please tell your friends about the podcast.
Please.
John, what do we have in store for next episode?
All right, let's go to Egypt. Pack up your bags, wrap yourself up in bandages. It's
especially if you're injured. Please bandage yourself.
Please get help, and then you can be a fun mummy. Yeah, it's mummies everywhere. We've got the next in line of Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman back after walking out angrily in this episode, which we'll address in a fantastic title, The Mummy on the Orient Express, which is a fantastic, very Doctor Who-y title. And so naturally, another easy one to pair that with, we go to a Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane. We haven't had Sarah Jane in a while, good old Sarah. Fourth Doctor Sarah Jane in the touching on Egypt, but of course still taking place mostly just outside of London. In the Pyramids of Mars.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, tune in.
I'm still sick. I may have the Cybermen virus.
Oh, yeah. You have a combination woke mind virus.
Or the woke
Cybermen.
mind.
Could be the woke mind. You watched the Star Beast and got the woke mind virus. That's a shame.
So no, I thought of Doctor Who fans as being pretty progressive. So, but there was a contingent that was up in arms.
Just a bunch of idiots on Twitter. I mean, I think that claim to be Doctor Who fans. I think again the media covers things like, "Ooh, there was an explosion of outrage," and it's like, you mean 5 people on Twitter? And like, yeah, that's it. That's the explosion.
Mindprobe.x.com.show